I'm here today with Mike Porteous, who is the founder and director of sports coaching business Zigzag Alive and founder of Confidence-Centered Coaching, a resource for coaches across all sport with an interest in confidence and self-belief. He's represented his country and is now a coach mentor for British Triathlon. And he coaches people across a wide range of abilities and ambitions, from first-time swimmers and triathletes to people undertaking long-distance challenges like Ironman triathlons. And he's the author of Beyond Belief, the art of confidence-centered coaching. So first of all, welcome to the show, Mike. It's great to have you here.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I regularly tune into these podcasts, so it feels something special to be here.
Oh, that's nice. It's always nice. And you've got a sort of sense of what I'm going to ask you, which is always a bit of an advantage, isn't it? Well, I'm going to start with the really obvious one, which is, well, when you say confidence-centered coaching, what do you mean by that?
Okay. What I don't mean, maybe I should start with that, is thinking of sort of clever tricks and tips that if only people said these things to themselves, or coaches told the people that they're coaching these things, then they would have this magical thing called confidence. That's not what I'm about. It's not what the book is about, and it's not my understanding of confidence. I see confidence as something that's rooted in how we feel before any words, something which is sort of touches on sensations. And confidence-centered coaching aims to get to those places with people, but not just for the people that we're coaching. It's about how I feel as a coach, how I can, or how I try to create a space. I call it an assured space, somewhere where I just feel like the coaching will just flow. It'll happen naturally. I'll bring the best of myself, and there'll be an easiness in the coaching. It's also about the relationships of trust that we develop. That kind of easiness between two people, or a coach and a collection of people, as well as how can I help prepare people for these big, hairy, scary challenges that they come to me for help with.
I have to say,
all that means. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Well, no, you finish that off, and then I'll kind of come back to you about that multifaceted dimension, because that's what's really interesting to me. But just,
Right.
finish off with when you say, and what that means is, I want to hear the rest of that sentence.
What that means is that, perhaps rather ironically for someone who's written a book about the art of confidence-centered coaching, is I don't believe there is such a thing as confidence. If you think of it as a thing that some people have and some don't, or something that you build up in people. Often people say that in quite a judgmental sort of way, you really should be more confident.
Lacks confidence.
Let's fix you. Let's get you on the right path. Whereas if it's about a deeper set of emotions, wow, that opens up quite a different way of coaching, of me being a coach, and the relationships that I want to develop, as well as how I'm hoping that people will feel as they go into their particular challenges.
And I love that identification of it as an emotion or an emotional state, and it also is something that you construct, that you kind of co-create with people, and it's relational. And what really struck me about your book from the get-go was that sort of multifaceted aspect of it, that it's about confidence in yourself, but it's also about confidence in your coach, and it's about the coach's confidence in their own, and this sort of virtuous kind of web of sort of confidence enhancing things. You obviously are from the world of sport, triathlon, particularly in swimming, but you and I know, and we've talked about the fact that this is not just for people who fancy doing an Ironman tomorrow, is it? This is a much broader approach to confidence? Why do you think it's important, even if you aren't about to undertake an ultra marathon?
Well, I should say I didn't. I've been on a bit of a journey with it, but I didn't set off on the journey thinking, "Oh, I'll write a book that will apply to everyone, to leaders, to teachers, to parents." I set off very deliberately to try and have an impact in the world of sports coaching. And then, as it happens, I started showing people some of the drafts, and talked about it with people outside of sport. More and more people were saying, "Well, this is so relatable to my area as a teacher or as a therapist." And when I did the 10-day challenge with you, strongly to be recommended to all.
I didn't pay for that, folks, honestly.
I remember I kind of had to work myself around the loop of thinking, have I written this? Have I got the audience right here? Surely there'd be a bigger market if it was addressed to this wider population. But in the end, I came back to saying no. In a sense, I was going to say I know my audience, but actually that I know my experience.
Yeah.
And when I've talked about it with other coaches, and then I feel sure that there's something there, no matter what sport, no matter what age group people are coaching, no matter what abilities.
There is a very well-trodden path, isn't there, from, I was going to say, from elite performance. I mean, you're not, you take in elite performance, but you're very clear that that's actually not who you are and what you do necessarily. Do you know, actually, let's just touch on that. Why is it so important? Because a lot of people draw a lot of their self-worth, their reputational kind of capital from the fact that they train national level athletes. And you're actually just as proud of the fact that you train kids to swim. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. I suppose it goes back to this thing of the whole mission, in a way, of confidence-centered coaching is to try and reimagine coaching, where instead of performance being the kind of the heart of what we're there for, and I as a coach have this expert knowledge which will help you to perform to someone's standard. What would happen if we reimagine coaching as fundamentally being about how people feel in the moment, or again, how I feel as a coach? If you step into that kind of arena, then the pinnacle of coaching at your best, isn't going to be defined by whether you're with elite athletes, whether they're at the very top of their sporting trees, whether you're regarded as a top elite coach. It's actually going to be in things which are far more basic, far more down to earth. How can I engage with a young person who really doesn't want to be there, who's come with a whole burden of angst? How can I work with them in such a way where they feel that actually they belong in this place, and they can really enjoy discovering how good it can feel.
It's sort of the opposite of the toxic culture that we've seen so often in elite sport, isn't it? That sense of sacrificing the athlete for the results, almost.
Yeah. I've had over the years quite a number of women who, in their early 60s, come and say, all my life I've wanted to swim, but I've at the same time, I've had myself telling me, or other people telling me, oh, you're not really a proper swimmer. And they come with it like a kind of a burning desire to find out what it's like to swim, particularly in the open water. And for many of them, to actually do quite a big challenge, a 5 mile swim. Wow. I mean, that has to be like a pinnacle of coaching. Being able to treat their ambitions with utmost respect, just as much as anyone would the Olympic athlete, to really honour what they're bringing, to see it as, I think of it as you're being handed a gift, the most privileged gift a coach could ever have. It's the person's raw ambition, full of doubts and all sorts of luggage from the past. Wow, that has to be up there as the best of coaching.
And in that context, you can see that if you can give back to them confidence, that's the most amazing gift too. I want to bring it just to the book for a minute, because you've been doing this work for quite a long time. But as you started to shape it into a book and give it a title and put it together, a table of contents and so on, what did you find most challenging about that? And what did you find most rewarding about it?
Right. Probably the most challenging thing is partly the isolation, because I didn't do what I know you always encourage people to do, is start with a publisher and then start writing. I did it sort of back to front. So I pretty much on my own writing and kind of wrestling with these ideas. Fortunately, I had someone who's ready to read each chapter as I wrote it, which maybe we'll come on to. But that was quite challenging, and I've, on a very personal level, I get so absorbed in that thing of kind of wrestling with an idea that too easily I can get a bit lost in it. Probably not the best partner to have around.
But in a sense, it's a dance between that, isn't it? Because if it's too glib, if it's too, this is what I already know and I'm just going to put it down and move on, that hasn't really taken us anywhere particularly interesting. I want our authors to almost be surprised themselves, to be discovering and unearthing new stuff.
Yeah.
And there's some uncertainty in that, and you don't quite know where it's going to end. But at some point it has to end, and at some point you have to have that kind of, it's quite an agile loop, isn't it? You've got a hypothesis and then you explore it, and sometimes you change your hypothesis, or it takes you in a slightly different direction, or you discover actually those parts are in a different order than I thought. But it's quite hard to hold that intention and keep things moving.
Yeah. Funny enough, it reminds me of there's an arts open house thing in the area at the moment, and at the weekend my partner and I visited one of the artists, a woman who does ceramics and painting, and she was telling us about her process. And she said that what she does is, in a sense, she lays down like a base material, and then she spends a lot of time kind of, in some cases, literally kind of scraping away some of the detail that's there in order to get to what she called the essence of what it was that she wanted to capture, the emotion or the imagery. Or I think there's something, I'm not as as exalted as her, but there's something in the writing I found like that, of kind of grappling with this kind of fuzzy, unclear ideas, trying to put them down somewhere, and then just going back and doing a lot of kind of taking out. I remember when I was writing it, some days I used to say to my partner, I've deleted more than I've actually written today. But it's that process of saying, what is it I'm trying to get to here? What
Yeah.
do I really feel? What does the person I'm describing, have I really got to what was going on for them, or what's going to help the reader? So that kind of stripping back to, I want to get hold of these big ideas.
And the problem, of course, or the beauty, or both, is that you can't go straight to the essence. You have to write around it. It's quite
Yeah,
iterative, and then you have to, as you say, strip back. I am firmly, and I've said it before on this podcast, I'm sure I'll say it again, no writing is ever wasted, because that's what gets you to the point where you're able to say it in
yeah,
fewer words more clearly, with the right imagery, or whatever it is. But it
yeah.
can feel heartbreaking when you sit down and
Yes.
you've written minus 4,000 words. What did you enjoy most about the process?
I'm not sure enjoy is where my
It was a leading question, wasn't
mind
it?
goes to. um, I've been really quite taken aback by some of the feedback
Mm.
I've had. Quite.
Sorry, I'm
Um,
laughing because it's that great thing. I don't enjoy writing, but I enjoy having written. I can't remember who said it, but it's very true, isn't it? Dorothy Parker, I think.
and I don't know if other people do this, but sometimes I find myself picking up the book and flicking through it. Oh well, this isn't bad.
Who wrote this? This is
I
great.
wonder who wrote it. Where did that come from?
That's hilarious.
That's a nice feeling. Yeah,
Yeah. And it is a beautiful book as well, actually. And if you've got a copy to hand, just hold it up
I
so people
do.
on the video can see. Yeah, it is gorgeous, isn't it? Just there's something very, how you want to embody this, the emotion of the book, the sort of the feeling that it gives you on the cover, and I really feel it does that. It's very
Oh,
calm
good.
but very energized, and yeah, I really like it.
Yeah.
I always ask my guests, Mike, for their best tip for somebody just setting out on this journey. I'm always worried when I say to people, "What do you wish you'd known?" That they say, "I don't. If I'd known, I would never have started." What do you wish you'd known before you set out on the journey? What would you like other people to know?
Well, I suppose that takes us back to the um, why did I write a manuscript before coming to publishers? I think I probably would have done it differently. Or book number 2, I think I'm going to adopt that approach. But it's difficult because, again, part of the process is, you have this sort of fuzzy idea. How on earth are you ever going to persuade anyone to go with it until it's in a form like, a thoroughly worked
Mm.
manuscript where you've done all that scraping to get to the truth that you really want to share. Um, yeah. But certainly what helped me thinking of, kind of tips was having that person, Professor Stephen Rolnick, very generously said he would read each chapter as I wrote, and that helped kind of gave me a spur. When I found myself getting lost in other things, I thought, I'd be thinking, I really must send Stephen another chapter.
Mm.
I need to keep up the momentum. Um, yeah, that really, really helped.
Yeah, got some accountability there.
Yeah.
I'm laughing as well when you say about, well, book 2, I'm going to do differently because I don't know if this is a common thing, but when I finished my first marathon, I remember very clearly as I crossed the line thinking, well, I'm never going to do that again. Nothing to prove now. I've done my marathon. And by the time I sort of picked up my goodie bag, I was thinking, sure, I think I could probably do a bit better with that. Next time, what I'm going to do. Isn't it funny how your memory hides the horror?
Yeah.
You just think, oh, that was a terribly rewarding experience. I think I'll do that again.
And actually, now you say it, I do think some of the best moments were when I interviewed people for the book, and people so generous and so open.
Mm.
Um, and I'd come away just quite awestruck almost. I think, wow, wasn't that amazing? How lucky am I to have, kind of witnessed or been a part of that
Mm.
conversation?
It's a great reason to write a book, isn't it? It gives you, I was going to say a pretext. I don't quite mean that, because it's real, but you wouldn't have had those conversations if you weren't writing the book.
Yeah.
So that in itself is really important, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why I'd like to do a book number 2.
Not for the book,
When
just
I
for the
think of it,
conversations.
the conversations, yeah, how
Yeah.
amazing that would be.
Yeah. Oh, well, I'm here for it. Brilliant. And also, I always ask my guests for a recommendation, as you know, because you're a listener. What book will you recommend us, Mike?
All right, I'm going to go for something a bit unusual, if I may. So it's not a business book, and it also has a slightly alarming title.
Ooh.
Art Against Despair by the School of Life.
Oh, brilliant. Love School of Life. Yeah.
Yeah, no, me too. I'm a big fan.
Yeah. So go on. Why are you recommending it?
Well, the way it's set out is, I was going to say each day, you could read it that way, 1 page a day. But each page has representation of a work of art, and then some text alongside it. And then I think there are 2 things that really impact on me. The first is, sometimes you'll look at a picture and you think, well, that doesn't do anything for me. Why did they put that in? But the text, it kind of invites you to look that more deeply. To kind of look and say, well, what's actually going on here? Particularly around the emotions. What was this person trying to convey? Or what kind of world did they live in when they created this piece of work? And I think, especially for sports coaches, but I know for other areas, that's such an important skill, to be
look
able
beyond.
to not go with your first reaction, but to have that kind of pause where you want to look a little bit deeply and saying, what's going on here? And most important, how does it connect to me? What does this leave me feeling? Wow, I think that's a key skill. And in my book, not wishing to plug my book in this
Do
section,
feel
but
free.
I talk about that, is the difference between closed reactions and open responses. The skillful art of creating open responses. So that's one thing. And the other is just the compassion that each one of these texts is written in it. And it tries to invite the reader to think about themselves. I've felt this way, and this is what has helped, or I can see that in myself.
I love that. So often,
Again, that's such an important skill
yeah.
to instead of thinking, as people tend to do, kind of mental health issues are over there somewhere with that bunch of people, and we must be sensitive to them. Art Against this, all the stuff by School of Life, it kind of invites you in to connecting to your own feelings, to your own fragility or uncertainty, and through that, I think, if I can be compassionate to myself, it just happens naturally that I'm going to be compassionate and kind and generous to people in front of me. Oh, that's what I want to be. That's how I want to be. Yeah.
And it's a lovely antidote or counterpoint to what is so often the sort of dominant mode of the business book world, isn't it? Which is where informational and I'm telling you, and it's authority based. Yeah. That idea about really actively co-creating the experience and inviting you into the emotion. It's lovely.
Yeah.
Thank you. Great recommendation. And Mike, if people want to find out more about you, more about Zigzag, and more about the work that you do, where should they go?
There's a website which is www.zigzagconfidence.com, and that has lots of blog posts and information on the philosophy and the actual practice of of confidence-centered coaching. And yeah, that's probably the best place to start. I have a LinkedIn page, but I'm not very good at using it.
So that's brilliant. I'll put those links up on the show notes at extraordinarybusinessbooks.com. And thank you so much for your time today. It's been absolutely brilliant talking to you, Mike. Thank you.
All right. Yeah. Thank you for having me.